Alright, so in my last supercut video, I put together all of the loadouts for like the base hero types, like soldiers, ninjas, farmers, outlanders, and I did not cover constructors as explained in that video. Today, I don't have all the thumbnails collected, but we're going to be covering, I guess you can see all of the actual names of the files. We're going to be covering loadouts specifically focused on weapons. So we're covering shotguns, pistols, bows, but the Bundlebuss on its own is kind of a big topic, and rocket loadouts. Now, some of these videos vary in age. The pistol loadout is quite old, and then the shotgun video came out about a year after, but it's my understanding that none of this information is quite out of date. But as with the previous video, I never really wanted to make a specific video like this because I always intended to do more loadout style videos. I never did get around to that. And we do have a situation where all of the current heroes are being reworked as of recording this. So I'm unable to update any of these videos because I'm not sure when or if that'll happen. So I figure, why not just put all of these videos together just so that they're in one place if anybody wants to track them down. I will be making one more of these as I showed in the previous video. This is my master list, but I do want to make one more video based on just abilities. So every ability that I've covered. Once again, I've always intended to cover every single ability within its own loadout video, but A, I never really got around to it, and B, as I've said, I can't now. So when the new hero update comes around, I'll be making videos on that like crazy. However, for now, we're stuck with what we got, so enjoy. Alright, it's shotgun week. If all goes well, this entire week should be dedicated to shotguns. My list is off the top of my head, but not limited to the ground pounder, the pop shot, the double boiler, the tiger jaw, and the room sweeper are all the shotguns I want to cover at least. But what would I be doing if I didn't at least start with the loadout that I'll be using for all shotguns in the future outside of this video and in my future videos? So personally speaking, shotguns are kind of just a fun pastime. I use them sort of like my ninja. Whenever I'm kind of sick of a proper like try-hard loadout, which this isn't even my main loadout. That's kind of just a Frankenstein from my past video. I like to use swords and shotguns and grenades or whatever when I'm just trying to have a little bit of fun, as everybody should be in a video game that's meant to entertain you. So there are a lot of different loadout options out there, and today we're going to be talking about shotguns. So as far as I'm aware, Cthulhu and I talked about this a lot. He's another nerd. And as far as I'm aware, Shell Shock and Critical Blast are the only two perks that specifically affect shotguns. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. I want everybody to have the best loadout they can, but honestly, there's not too much to talk about because she buffs your damage and he buffs your crit rating. I'm going to throw some math on the screen now to explain why these guys are the same, and okay, that's enough math. So these guys have effectively the same damage bonus to your shotguns. However, as far as I'm aware, the 75% crit damage is a little bit better in your support, by like 10% or something. So ultimately, this is what I like to run, and personally, I think, Renegade Raider is a better lead than Raptor Dude, because, did anybody really spend 2,000 V-Bucks on this guy? Oh, sorry, wrong game. So the only other two heroes that really affect your DPS is Locked and Reloaded, and sort of via Locked and Reloaded in a pinch, but in a pinch is being used because it's bugged right now. So this commander perk, buffing your reload by 50% when it's empty, is being applied to your support perk. So you'll be seeing that throughout a bit of my gameplay where I'm reloading a lot faster than I should be because her support perk is quite good. Personally speaking, Epic, if you somehow hear this, please leave it how it is, or just update it to where somebody buffs your reload. It's not that broken. I like it a lot. Please, thank you. Keep it in the game. So, Locked and Reloaded buffs your damage by 15% for 5 seconds after reloading, and in a shotgun loadout, you are going to be constantly reloading. I'm going to show one of my shotgun schematics right here, just the ground pounder real quick, because this is a weapon, any shotgun, honestly, but this is a weapon that you're going to be shooting constantly. You're always going to be just boom, 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 boom. The bigger the mag size is basically like the longer... You're basically just delaying the inevitable with a bigger mag size, because if it's a single shotgun where you're going to be boom, boom, boom constantly, you're going to run out of ammo no matter what. So you might as well just bite the bullet and make it reload. Give it a reload perk because you're going to be doing it a lot anyway, and it's definitely going to help you more in the end. The only exception to this is something like a room sweeper, where the mag size is so big that you're effectively shooting a submachine gun in a way. It's very different than a submachine gun, as you can see, but you know what I mean, where the mag size is so big that mag size actually does make a bit of sense on the room sweeper. However, for most shotguns, I definitely prefer the reload perks, and I keep these reload perks consistent even when I'm using the room sweeper. And then finally, this is a personal decision, fleet. As anybody knows, if you've seen my past hero loadouts, I like to balance damage with health and movement, but I broke a couple of my rules with this loadout. First off, there's no health perks, which could be an oversight. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I could easily take explosive rounds out. I kind of glossed over this because it's just a side perk. Every 6 kills, triggers an explosion. When you're using a shotgun, a single fire weapon, that's a nice thing to have. However, I do completely see how survivalist might give me a little bit more survivability. And then, of course, like I was saying, fleet, I use it just to get around faster. This is a shotgun loadout where you're very, very limited range. So the less time spent getting between you and your enemy, the better. I would also highly recommend the Baron. I have a video on that in the description below. You can see it right here. I've got triple movement speed on this. Definitely a good tool to have. I basically just use shotgun and the Baron to get around faster because I can just run straight up to my enemies. And that's pretty much it. If you guys want to run something else, you can definitely run like Going Coconuts if I can find it, or you might want to buff your Shockwave because you're going to be in the thick of it a lot. There are tons of different options, but I'm talking to you guys today about what I use for my loadout. Now, before I end this video, I do want to give, proper credence to Blast from the Past, which is interesting. I mentioned in my recent videos that I don't use this on my shotgun loadout and that I was going to explain why. And the reason is, Preemptive Strike buffing your damage by 32.5% on full health enemies kind of goes a long way on shotguns. I feel like it does, at least. I feel like a lot of the enemies you're shooting constantly are always going to be like full health on the first bullet. And if you can just get that extra kick from that shot, that's kind of a nice bonus. However, if you do put on Blast from the Past, you might have to make a decision like, let's just take off Survivalist for the sake of conversation. Saurian Might does add extra damage to your ranged weapon, so this might give you the same bonus that you'd get from the Preemptive Strike. And then if you want to give up one of your other perks, personally speaking, I honestly think I'd go with Fleet because I have that Baron. So long as I have that Baron, my health is kind of accounted for, and then I've got Saurian Hide just to get that team perk active. Now, the reason that I'd also suggest using this, if you don't agree with my logic on the Preemptive Strike, is you will have so much more health. You can see that this is a visual bug only, but it's displaying that I'd have 303,000, then 97,000 shield. I could take away the 97,000 and then make my health over 900,000 just alone. I don't even have anybody else in my party. That is a huge amount of damage you'll be able to take while you're in the middle of a fight, so it definitely could be worth it. And then something a little bit controversial maybe. I mean, this is just a preference, honestly. Do you want to reload faster when you're empty, which you'll constantly be doing, or do a little bit more damage while you're constantly reloading? I think I'd go with the damage because I'm operating off the description here saying that coconuts increase your damage by 16%, which is obviously more than 15%, and I haven't experienced that to be the case real world. I could totally be wrong. I haven't tested it heavily or anything, but the amount of health that Going Coconuts gives you is absolutely essential to staying alive with Blast from the Past when you're in the middle of a pack. So because you're doing so much damage with your shotguns already, I think this is a pretty solid loadout. Like I said, in a pinch is totally interchangeable with our thick skeleton lady. If you wanted to do that, you could totally do that. So there you go. There's my shotgun loadout. There's what I use on all of my shotguns. That'll be the loadout I'll pretty much be using on all of my future shotgun videos coming out the rest of this week. Be sure to stay tuned. Obviously, it's going to be the other loadout. It'll be one of these two. Never mind. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any other comments, things you want to add, questions you want to ask, leave them in the comments below. I'm super, super responsive. As of recording this, I'm a small enough YouTuber to where I can reply to every single comment, so I am definitely ready to engage with any of you guys. If you want to come to our Discord, post in the Fortnite crap, that's a great place to post pictures of your loadouts, chat about different things, get your questions answered by people who are a little less busy than I am. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching. And use my supported creator code. I guess I should plug that. That's the difference between a pistol and a fully auto weapon. So today we're going to be talking about pistols, and this is a video that is purely a product of request, viewer request, and interest amongst people who like to use inferior little boy weapons because they're bored or something. Like, yeah, I mean, this is not a man's gun, all right? This is, look at this, this is a man's gun, all right? No, my point is that pistols are they're fun. Honestly, they can be very, very powerful. I jest, but they are not my personal favorite. There are some standouts, and I know this isn't a pistol video. This is a weapon. This is actually, I guess, technically one of my first hero loadout videos ever. You know, I didn't think about that. I want to make a lot of hero loadout videos, and there are going to be plenty more, but I technically have two covering the new heroes, the ninja and the soldier, the new dino heroes. Check them out. They will be relevant in this video, so if you haven't learned about them, click the links below. And I've also done a video covering the, oh god, the best Outlander setup. I don't believe that's outdated. That will also be linked below if you're interested. But today we're going to be talking about a couple of pistols that I will recommend to go with this loadout if you haven't already figured them out. If you've already got pistols and you don't care about my opinion, skip to this point when we start talking about the loadout. Some of the standouts are the Whisper 45, new with the military set. I have a video on this, link below. Yeah, I'm linking all my videos today, you boys. You clicked on my channel, you're gonna see some of my recommendations, all right? You know, this is why I've been making so many videos. It's all coming together. Whisper 45 and Jack's Revenge both have their own videos. Jack's Revenge was mostly covering a bug. You don't really need to watch that, but you used to be able to get 3 mag size on this, so that's cool. It is an insanely powerful weapon. This headshots for a truckload, and I don't even have it maxed out with the damage. So, very, very good weapon. I mean, this is headshotting for more than my spyglass, and it's 106. So, very, very good. However, it is single shot with a decent reload time. You know, 1.7 with the reload speed. That's per bullet. I mean, if you're going to use it as your main weapon, you might want like a Ginger Blaster or Whisper 45, something that shoots faster. But it shoots slower, so it's kind of more in the Bald Eagle range. If you wanted to go a full pistol loadout, you could have a Bald Eagle or a Jack's Revenge or a Duelist or a 6-shooter. I don't have the Duelist or the 6-shooter. I'm so sorry that I can't show that for you guys today, but they're both very good. They both have 6-round mags. They're very powerful. But the Whisper 45 is like a fast-firing weapon. Then you could have like your quote-unquote sniper being your Jack's Revenge. There are a lot of cool things you can do with pistols. There's just not my personal flavor. Ginger Blaster, very good. Eliminations with this weapon drop the healing gumdrops, which can keep you going for a long time. And if you're going to be using this with a Blast from the Past loadout, very powerful combination, and we will be talking about that later on. Founders Revolt, everybody's favorite, not even comparable to the others because it's completely different. Like, you got a Founders Revolt which chains enemies. This heals you. This weapon's just good. I mean, the Whisper 45 crits every other shot when it's maxed out. I mean, and then the Jack's Revenge hits so hard it can sit a smasher down and make it cry. Like, you got a lot of options here. If you guys haven't gotten into pistols yet, I've only scratched the surface because I'm not going to cover every pistol in the game. We're not going to be sitting here all day. Okay, you got things to do. I got things to do. Let's make this quick. So now that we've talked about some pistols that you can use with your loadout, let's actually talk about what we're here to talk about. And that is something that is going to come with a heavy, heavy disclaimer. This is not a perfect loadout. No loadout ever is. The loadout that you will choose in the end is always dependent on what you want, and that is the coolest thing about this hero update. Oh, you don't know about the hero update that occurred? Link below. Yeah, I'm plugging everything today. I'm like an outlet. You know, one of those. The loadout that we got here is my personal best all-around loadout, and I'm actually going to open up some notes. This was for another video, but it occurs to me as I'm recording that this is applicable to every single loadout. So my basic formula, I'm not a mathematist, but my basic formula is that it balances weapon damage with total health, and it has decent movement. That would be the perfect loadout. So what I can kind of show is like my normal hero. This sacrifices the movement, so I don't have a fleet perk buffing my 12.5% movement speed. However, if you are one of the people who acquired the Baron, or you have any kind of melee weapon that buffs speed, you can hold something like this. I use this in my loadout quite a good bit. It buffs my movement speed by 42%. That's a lot. All I got to do is switch to this thing and movement is covered. So if you have a tool like this, you don't necessarily need to, say, run Fleet on your loadout. If you don't know what Fleet is, Fleetfoot Ken is just a great all-around hero. He is a ninja, if I can find him here. That's Infiltrator. You know, Ken is a man of many hats. So you can run him with in your support squad. I was gonna move on casually, but I just think that's way too funny. So you can put him in your support squad for a 12.5% movement speed bonus, And then as a commander, he's kind of a, well, I mean, if you carry him and the Baron, you're going to be flying. You know what? I actually tested that once, link below. And it's very fast, but this isn't a movement video. This is all about just, you know, you can use him in the support and he's good. Nevertheless, he is an Outlander, this Gunblazer Southie, so you'll also have your phase dash, which is kind of what we're talking about because he is everybody's favorite golden boy for buffing pistol damage. A massive 105% bonus damage for 4 seconds after phase shifting. So all you got to do is dash into battle and clear the encampment. I think the Founder's Revolt or something that hits a lot of enemies at once is probably one of your best bets for him. And he's awesome. And then the two that you want that also buff damage a ton is Hip Shot, which is basically the Rescue Trooper Ramirez of pistols, except that he's a guy and is, you know, pistols. 17% in the support, 50% overall. 50% overall will be identical to our next best guy right here, you know, who's not actually a guy. And that 225%, it works out to be the same, you guys, because the 50% buffs your damage and your crits, or at least it buffs your base damage all around, which the crits then go on top. I will explain that in another video. Trust me, but they are identical. You can fight me on it. Math doesn't care about your feelings. I'm sorry. I had an argument on stream, and it's a whole thing. So the crit damage being 75% boosted, if I'm not mistaken, again, I'm not a mathematist, I do believe that is better in your support. So if you wanted to run Hip Shot as your main, a 50% bonus all the time is personally a lot less stressful than a 105% for 4 seconds. This gives you no indicator as to when your 4 seconds is up, and in the heat of battle, you might not notice your damage going down significantly. Maybe you will, I don't know. But he is definitely best as your lead. I just, you know, again, personal preference. That's why I opened with a massive disclaimer. You can see I'm running him with the Blast from the Past loadout. Now, in a pistol loadout where you want to, you know, do a lot of damage and maximize your damage per bullet, Preemptive Strike is great. If you don't have this, he comes with Raven for some reason. I don't know why, but he does. Raven will give you the Preemptive Strike bonus. He's the mythic hero, which is also a decent one to talk about, because if you're making a pistol loadout, lefty and righty is an interesting topic, because he will make your lefty and righty very, very powerful. But lefty and righty is a whole other ballpark. I'm not actually sure if all these pistol buffs do go with that, but, you know, the lefty righty does, however, lead me into Wild West, which is Quick Draw Calamity. And unfortunately, again, I am not able to show you this hero because I don't have her, and I'm not about to spend a voucher on her because her team perk that she gives you is so minimal that I can't remember it. Trust me, guys, if I can't remember it, then it's probably bad. But if I can show you something real quick here, Fortnite crap in the Minerva Discord. If you haven't joined this yet, then, you know, go do that. I like to pin comments and stuff that are useful to us, like Noob has sent a few loadouts that are pretty good in the past. Not getting distracted, I'm going to show that I have a list in our Discord of this tiny thing that I can't even see. I'm going to squint while I read. Eliminations increase damage for all weapon types, and it stacks every time a weapon type's elimination. I'm a great reader. Anyway, that doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know if it's that good of a boost. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. My point is, she's great. She's great. She's great. 20% damage for the first 6 shots. If you're using, like I mentioned, the 6-shooter, or the Judge, or the Bald Eagle, I think has 7 shots. I'm listing 6-round magazine weapons, by the way. She will buff the first 6 shots, which is nice. That's almost like First Shot Rio. Buffing the first 6 shots is a crit. Oh, speaking of the devil, there she is. There you go. This is assault weapon, so unfortunately you can't use her for guaranteed crits on your pistols. So because I don't have her, I'm running this loadout. If I did have her, I would definitely replace it with pistol damage because, you know, would you rather 6 guaranteed 20% for after a reload or 17% always? If you're using Whisper 45, maybe. Preference. All I'm doing in this video is educating about options. So while Blast from the Past is a massive bonus, and Saurian Might will be giving you 3% of your current health on top of all the shots you're shooting, every second that is, that's pretty good. If you're shooting like a tap, you know, a tap fire rate pistol, and that's shooting maybe once every second, or you're not clicking very fast, then he will be adding about, you know, it's okay. Let's say you have 1,000,000 health. He'll be adding about 3% of that, so 30k to every bullet, which is not bad. That's extra damage, you know? That's good stuff. And then, like I said, we're balancing damage with health and movement. So health is the third one. If you're going to be running Blast from the Past, you need some sort of healing. Survivalist, campfires, I've recently discovered that going coconuts is awesome. It says it increases damage. I don't know if I believe that. I've experienced my pickaxe doing more, but I have not experienced damage buffs. I tested it with a few different weapons. I ate the coconuts. The damage did not go up. I looked at my sheet DPS. It did not change. My spyglass headshot was consistent. The bullets from my gun were consistent. Like I said, my pickaxe did more damage. So this might be bugged, but a damage buff alone is worth using. Never mind the fact that coconuts, in my experience, when I had about 1,000,000 HP, they were giving me about 30k or 300k just for eating it. And then it was healing me about 10 to 15k per second over the course of like the 30 seconds it's active or so. These are all rough numbers from experience. I don't know the exact figures. However, going coconuts is insanely good. If you're standing there eating coconuts, it will take a horde of zombies to kill you. I have survived encampments when I should not have survived encampments using going coconuts, so I am quickly becoming a fan of it. However, it will require one of your slots. And going back to the Baron that I mentioned earlier, if you're going to be carrying this in your loadout like this, you can just never mind that middle weapon because you're going to be basically running a pistol, room for your coconuts, and then your movement speed. Obviously, you can do whatever you want. You don't need to use a Baron. You don't even need to use the coconuts. But if you are using them, be aware that you're not going to have that empty. You're not going to have another slot. So, you know. Fun fact, the stop axe buffed by Saurian Claws becomes a very usable weapon. That is not at all the topic of the video, but just figured I wanted to share that with you. So, going back to the pistol loadout, we've just talked about a lot of options. There are a lot of good ways to go about it, and there are a lot of different things you can do. There are different bonuses if you find the room. So if you don't run Blast from the Past and you don't need these two, you can, say, replace your extra armor with the Skeleton Lady that Cthulhu, friend of mine based, gave me a loadout very similar to this, and I've been going off that pretty heavily. Locked and Reloaded buffs your damage by 15% after a reload. That's not better than the 17% constant, obviously, but it's something you might want to consider. There are very good bonuses out there in this game, and I have not nearly touched on all of them. However, when it comes to pistols, there aren't that many options. So there are a lot of bonuses in general, but for pistol specific, we're running almost everything you can get. Like I mentioned, Calamity, I think, is the last one that buffs pistols specifically. There might be somebody I'm forgetting. If anybody wants to inform me in the comments below, I'll pin it. Probably, maybe. I'll definitely respond to it, and that would be greatly appreciated. If anybody has any ideas that I did not cover here that you want to share, Fortnite crap in our Discord, I showed you where to send it. I will be, honestly, tag me with a loadout and let's chat about it. Nobody has ever done that before. Every time I've ever said it in video, nobody's ever followed me up on that. I want to chat with you guys about these hero loadouts. I want to know more than I know already, and I want to know what everybody's using, because you might find a loadout that I would think is absurd and then explain to me a weapon that like makes it really good, and then that could be awesome. So there you go. I covered pistols. I don't use it personally, so that's why this took so long for me to make. And honestly, I'm not even kidding. The whole reason I even recorded this video when I did is because my soldier video is going to be so big that I need an extra loadout just to show all the different options that buff weapons in this game. This right here is what I've been toying with, but it is not my main loadout. Hell, if you watch my streams, you'll see this loadout change 2 to 3 times a stream. So there are a lot of things you can do, and that's the best part, because I love the fact that there's no right answer. There is no quote-unquote meta. Rescue Trooper Ramirez is the closest thing we have. Okay, her and Blast from the Past are the closest thing we have to a meta. Blast from the Past is insanely powerful. It is just so good. And her buffing all of your damage by 50% is just so consistent and simple. I mean, a 50% damage buff straight up, no questions. I mean, come on. That's a lot of damage. It's a lot of stuff. So it's kind of hard to justify using anything else. But hey, you might not care about damage. You might care about Warcry or a minigun or something. But again, we're talking about another video. So that's it for pistols. A surprisingly long talk for a loadout that I thought would be quite simple. Of course, the hero loadout update gave us a lot of options, so I want to keep you guys informed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. Let's talk about bow loadouts and why I've never made a video on this topic. So Stoneheart Farah exists. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. No, but Stoneheart Farah does do something very, very good for bows. She might be the only hero that buffs bows directly, but she does do something very, very good for them. On a bow hit, the arrows can splinter off and deal 60% of the damage to 5 nearby targets, which basically instantly makes every single bow decent at area of effect damage. So the big drawback to a lot of bows is the fact that they just hit a single target, and that's no matter how powerful it is, if you're only hitting one target, that is bad. You could literally do 1 billion damage with every single hit, but if you're only shooting once, per shot with a couple seconds downtime, save it for a smasher or a mini boss and basically never use it for anything else, because that weapon will not be your primary. But with Stoneheart Farah, she instantly makes it so that every bow can hit multiple targets and makes them pretty usable if you want to use them as a build, as a proper loadout, which is why we're going to be talking about her for the rest of the video. And the vacuum tube bow is an excellent example of this, because some people say it's bugged. I legitimately just think it should be doing what it's doing, because it doesn't look that broken to me, but I think a lot of people disagree. Currently what's happening is the vacuum tube bow on hit, it actually does exactly what she does. It chains to other enemies and can zap them with that nature damage. But what seems to be happening is when it hits those targets, they also chain the lightning strike, and you can take out a whole horde of zombies with basically one shot. And that is really, really effective. If we didn't have exploding death burst on this, I think it would have been a lot more effective. And you can see even with healing death burst, it's having a good time. But that's just kind of a buggy / extreme example to really demonstrate what exactly is going on with her perk. You can totally see that it just really is good at just chaining to other enemies. So she is really like the only hero in the game that directly buffs bows specifically. Obviously, currently, as I record this, bows are classed as a sniper rifle. I suspect heavily that in the future they will have their own class, so if you're a time traveler and you're coming from the year 2021, leave a comment below, because you might have some more options than we did back when I recorded this video. But coming back to the present, I want to talk about the current best options for, buffing bows in Fortnite Save the World. So there are effectively 2 options for team perks, and both of my loadouts are built around them. And nobody's going to be surprised when I say Blast from the Past and Totally Rocking Out. But before we get too deep into it, I really do want to bring up some options for people that don't have these event-locked team perks. Preemptive Strike, it might be your best shot. It really is. I think default... Okay, scratch that. It's not default, but way more people have gotten Raven, which is the mythic hero that unlocks Preemptive Strike, than people have gotten Blast from the Past and Totally Rocking Out. So that might be an option if you have it, but if you don't have any of these event perks, then you can pretty much figure out anything. Soaring Mantis comes from Wukong. He's also been fairly common. I think a lot of people have had a chance to grab him, and then from there I'm going to let you guys just sort of decide what you think would be best for you. I mean, it doesn't really matter what your team perk is, because this is the good news. Blast from the Past just gives us a lot of health and just kind of a constant bonus in health with Saurian Hide and Saurian Might. It's not even the crux of this build. You don't need this team perk to do well. Stoneheart Farah and Coconuts and/or Sure Shot and Quickscope are all going to be great buffs anyway. And then, of course, Totally Rocking Out is something we'll talk about later, but again, you don't need Totally Rocking Out to do well with bows. So building with this loadout, let's talk about what we've got going on. Obviously, we need Might to buff your damage. That's obvious. And then Hide is pretty much the only other option, because we're not using melees and you're not really using energy in this build. And so obviously Saurian Hide to give you that extra health is great in general. I prefer Coconuts. I highly recommend Coconuts. If you don't have them, a great base game alternative is Survivalist Jonesy. It's not going to be as much health recovery. It's going to be pretty low. In fact, it's going to be quite a bit less than just putting down like a campfire or something. So if you don't have Coconuts, then a great second option is the Thick Skeleton Lady here, Locked and Reloaded, because she'll give you a 15% damage buff instead of a 16% from the Coconuts. So it's 1% less damage, which you'll never notice, but it'll also give you that extra damage when you hit reload. So it's nice to have. Of course, that is an option, but Kogan Coconuts is superior in every way in terms of healing. It's way more healing. It's about 1/3 of your health per coconut, and then it heals faster than 2 campfires over about 20 to 30 seconds, and then never mind the damage buff. Coconuts are I'm a huge fanboy, and everybody who's watching my videos probably knows this. And then you basically got 2 options, Sure Shot and Quickscope. These are the only other 2 heroes in the game that directly buff sniper damage in any meaningful way. I do know about Zenith, and I do know that there are a couple of heroes that do buff, snipers in their own little way, but realistically, Sure Shot and Quickscope are the main 2. There aren't really any better than this. Obviously, she gives you the 17% damage bonus, so that's actually 1% more than Going Coconut, so it's always active, and you don't need to reload like the Thick Skeleton Lady, so you always have that as an option. And then, of course, Sure Shot just buffs your crit damage, and that is something interesting. I'm going to leave it to the individual bow to decipher whether or not this is necessary, because at 75%, if you're running a bow with a crit build, which is pretty common, and I'll explain why that matters in a second here, but if you have a 38% chance to crit on a 75%, bonus here, then it's effectively giving you about a 21% damage buff. He's like a little bit better than Quickscope in the support, and that's not bad at all. Obviously, if you're running like I do with my vacuum tube bow, which is triple damage currently, he's not going to be nearly as useful. If you're only critting 10% of the time, now he's a 7.5% damage buff. And if I wasn't running a crit build on the Xenon bow that I've been using in this gameplay, then I go back to the thick skeleton lady here, who would probably be a significantly better option. And I actually forgot to mention why crit is pretty common on the bows, and that's that triple damage usually takes about 3 to 4 shots to actually eliminate an enemy, and in that time, you pretty much would have crit anyway, but it kind of depends on the individual bow. As you saw with the vacuum tube bow, I went to go triple damage. I've liked that. It's worked for me. I haven't really noticed too much of a discrepancy between that and a crit build, so I kind of just left it like that, but you can do whatever you want. Obviously, I'll link all of my bow videos in the description below. Some of them were upon release, so items like the vacuum tube bow have changed since they've come out, but most of them are still pretty accurate. I stand by my perk recommendations on most of them. Now, of course, there's a lot of mixing and matching you guys can do with this, and that's the whole point of recording a video on this, is so I can talk through it, and that is mixing Totally Rocking Out. I mentioned it as a separate build before, and you totally can use the team perk. We'll get to that, timestamp in the description, but you can totally run Battle Beat, or the other guy, I don't even know who he is, Fumble, I think he's a ninja, and you can have him just dropping those footballs occasionally to maybe buff your damage. There's a lot of things you can do here if you don't want to run a couple of these heroes, or if you don't have them. I am extremely aware that everything I'm showing here are event heroes, but what can you do? It's save the world. I mean, I said best loadout in the title. I'm going to show you the best heroes. I can try my best to give you some alternatives, but we get what we get. As of recording this, however, this is a very fortunate time to be watching this, because if you're watching this shortly after it's uploaded, Pirate Llamas are in the game, and coconuts do come from this, so you can get Crossbones Barrett from those llamas. Very, very nice timing. And then, at least as of now, Rabbit Raider Jonesy is in the event shop. So you can pick up some pretty key players from this build right now, but that is time sensitive to the upload date, and that'll be certainly untrue in the future. So while I do prefer Blast from the Past, a lot of people know this, I like the consistency of it, I like how it keeps you healthy and all that, but Totally Rocking Out is something that's going to come up 100% because it's awesome. It is basically the extreme version of Blast from the Past. So instead of giving you all that health, it gives you a lot of damage for a very brief amount of time, and that can be really, really good. I was very comfortably critting for like 1,000,000 damage. I mean, it just completely cleans up hordes of zombies every time you buff it. I know some people don't like sub-wafers on these builds, but I just like it because I can force an activation. Whenever I want to have my team perk active, I can just eat a sub-wafer, and I have replaced coconuts on this build to accommodate for that. Obviously, you can use Fumble, or, I mean, I guess if you want to use a heavy attack elimination, I don't think that's going to fit. Obviously, you can use Fumble in place of that, and it'll be active without you needing to eat it, but then you kind of have to be in the fight, and bows are a bit of a long-range weapon, so, I mean, there's a lot of variability there. Ultimately, you do need 2 of these to activate it, and I think Battle Beat's obviously the important one, because 10 eliminations is pretty easy to get with Stoneheart Pharaoh and a decent bow, and that's all around a good way to go. Now, of course, like I said, he's locked and reloaded, and I'm not going to over-explain too many of the other alternatives here because they are exactly the same to Blast from the Past. Obviously, if you want to have a whole loadout full of things you can eat, then coconuts are a good way to go here, but there's not much else to say for Totally Rocking Out. It has all of the options I mentioned in the Blast from the Past section of this video, and it's just really, really good at buffing your damage by a lot, and that's why I don't prefer it, honestly. You don't necessarily need that damage buff. Some bows are gotten really good. I did use the Xenon bow for most of this gameplay, and while I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, I do want to address it now, actually, that there are a lot of options in this game. There are currently 12 bows in the game that aren't crossbows, and some of them are good, some of them are bad, but I saw the Xenon bow as a non-explosive weapon that doesn't really have too much of a niche. Like the vacuum tube bow, it chains to other enemies, and the cloudburst leaves a smoke bomb, but the Xenon bow is like a very, very basic bow, but amped up because you can shoot through enemies and walls. Obviously, that is its niche, but it's so normal, and it's true to how a bow should kind of work, that I felt like it was a good, consistent option here. Alright, now lastly, I want to talk about this Lynx loadout here, because I know that somebody's going to bring it up, and I think this video is incomplete without it. So obviously, the idea is if you use Lynx Cassandra, you can jump up, hover in the air with Raccoon Eye, buff that damage by more than double, as you can see, and you'll do a ton of damage. And that's true. I mean, you will. But it really breaks the flow of a mission to be hovering in the air for a set amount of time, and it is only there for 4 seconds, and then you get another 5-second cooldown. We are using Happy Holidays here to be able to spam that as much as possible, and while it is consistent, and it does work great, it's just not incredibly practical. So your damage will go up, but obviously you need to put Farah in the support. Obviously you can put her in the lead and then use Lynx in the support. That is a way you can go. I'm not even going to suggest against that. In fact, you don't even need to run Happy Holidays in that case. You can just spam your kunai here and there, and then you can have all the benefits of Totally Rocking Out or Blast from the Past and just have a Lynx bonus. Of course, you are going to have to look at Coconuts, Sure Shot, and Quick Scope and decide which one of these you are going to not want to have, and it's for that reason that I can't really recommend Lynx, but of course it's an option, and who doesn't need an excuse to run Lynx? So yeah, I finally got around to making a video on some good loadouts for bows. I felt like this topic was too simple to cover for a long time. I just usually show people a screenshot, but I guess it's, you know, become more of a topic because some of the recent bows that have come out are a lot more interesting, and all of my videos on all of my bows will be linked in the description below if you want to check out any of those. And I highly recommend the Powder Keg and the Xenon videos. Those are two of my most recent ones, and they are two of my favorite bows in the entire game. They are very good, and I'm so happy because it's making people interested in bows again. And I think the loadout is, no matter how simple it is, even if it's, you know, bare bones simple, I just show people a screenshot. The simple fact that people have been asking for that screenshot lets me know that this video was in demand and hopefully helped some of you guys out. So if you enjoyed, feel free to like the video, you know, hit subscribe if you're new, use code Mista at your checkout, support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. Oh, the Bundlebuss. What a powerhouse. I made a video about a year ago on the best perks for this weapon. I'd highly recommend checking that out in the description below. The perks are pretty standardized, and I'm obviously spoiling them right here, but I do talk quite a bit more about the weapon, so if you're interested, I'd appreciate it if you checked it out. But the Bundlebuss is a very hot topic, and I know it's a fan favorite amongst most Save the World players. It's all I've been hearing about recently, so I'm recording this a few days in advance, banking that this will be coming out either soon or a little later, but also soon. So what I decided to do today was to talk about the Bundlebuss's best uses and a couple of loadouts that are really good for making this weapon as effective as possible. Simply put, it's an extremely high-powered single-target weapon. I used to use this for the Storm King for about the first 100 wins before I literally the first 100 wins before I finally unlocked the Wrath, but the Bundlebuss got the job done. I used two of them, dual-wield, back-to-back. I don't have too much gameplay of that today because I didn't craft a second nature one before I made it triple crit damage, so unfortunately, I don't have anything to show you there beyond that little clip of the Storm King, but suffice it to say, it'll basically make this weapon twice as good. So if you can spare the extra inventory slots and you want to run two of these, you can totally do that. But I'm going to jump right into it and talk about the very first loadout. So we're going to start with a basic soldier build. This is what I use pretty much all the time, and I think this is going to be the most normal way that people will use the Bundlebuss, and that is as a secondary. You'll have like a Bobcat or any normal weapon just to clear out crowds of zombies. This will be your main primary DPS, and then maybe like a rocket launcher in the middle. I opted for Coconuts here, which will buff your damage and your healing, and then the Bundlebuss is really good for taking out the fatties or the mist monsters or the healing hose or any bigger target that you want to focus on immediately. It doesn't chunk away a ton at a smasher, but I think it's like 4 or 5 bursts will take it out with this build, and it's a really effective way to just have some extra punch in your pocket. Obviously, if you're running a launcher like I mentioned, you're probably not going to need the Bundlebuss. I'm going to level with you here, but this is probably the most basic way to use it. Moving on to the Storm King is basically the other way that the Bundlebuss is used. The Storm King is our example here for any boss fight where you're going to need to do hard single target damage and you don't have like the Storm King's Wrath or any other alternative. 2 Bundlebusses is a very effective way to take any big target down. I used my actual Storm King loadout here, so you can tell that it's not actually doing as much to the smashers. You'll see some of the later loadouts are here, but ultimately it was very effective. Now, I do have no damaging perks here for the Bundlebuss besides Saurian Might, and that's all coming from Lynx and Saurian Might. I have actuated attacks on the other stuff. Because this is a Storm King loadout, this is much more balanced for that exact fight. However, if you're running Lynx and you put assault crit damage and assault weapon damage and all those bonuses, that thing will shred because Lynx does about 140% extra damage, effectively more than doubling your damage. The Bundlebuss went from really good to incredibly powerful if you pop that kunai. And now we're going to talk about some of the more fun builds. I'm going to get into Totally Rocking Out here before we move on to my first shot real loadout. You can probably tell where that's going. And I put all the damaging I could on this. As for the support team on Totally Rocking Out, I opted for Fumble and Subwafers. I like Subwafers for videos and for general use all together because I can pop it and then know exactly when I'll have it active. You could totally swap Fumble for Battle Beat if you wanted to have a different variety there. I don't know that you'd be eliminating 10 enemies necessarily if you're using the Bundlebuss, but you could use like a triple crit damage Candy Corn LMG or something like that that's incredibly powerful, and then use the Bundlebuss for the big boys. And I did roll triple crit damage on this for some of these fights. You can see that I use crit rating double double crit damage for a while here, and that was extremely effective. I think that's probably the best way overall to use it. I don't trust Totally Rocking Out to provide all of my extra crit rating, but you can do triple crit damage. I wasn't extremely impressed, but it's definitely a way that you could go. And then I did Assault damage, Locked and Reloaded. These are two great options. I didn't want to have Coconuts and Subwoofers, so I actually went for First Assault, which is kind of questionable. The first two shots will have a 100% chance to crit, and with the Tactical Assault Sledgehammer in the lead, that is a huge damage buff, but it's only for the first two shots when you reload, which you don't always do. You kind of want to run out the mag if you're using this normally. So that's definitely an option for you to switch out, but it goes to show that the Bundlebuss is like the king of crits, and it only gets stronger if you use Totally Rockin' Out. Let's talk about this last build, because I think this is where the Bundlebuss can just be an absolute freaking monster. So it goes from a powerhouse to, I'm running out of English words to describe this weapon, but with First Shot Rio in the lead, the first 6 shots out of your magazine will have a 100% chance to crit. A good tip for using this build is to not reload after getting in fights. I know I'm somebody who likes to reload every single time I shoot, basically, and sometimes I'll do it in the middle of a fight even when I shouldn't be reloading, but with this loadout, you're probably going to want to save that reload, as it is what activates your next 6 shots to crit. So whenever you're done with a smasher or whatever you're shooting, just don't reload right before you shoot, and that is actually how I started this clip, even though I didn't show it. Obviously, we want assault crit damage in the support here to make all of those shots do 75% more crit damage. Going Coconuts is just nice to have in general, because I chose for a Blast on the Pass loadout here. You probably could do Totally Rockin' Out to buff your damage even further, but I wanted to show a bit of variety in this video, and you guys can mix and match as you choose. Assault damage is just good. I mean, extra damage is great to have, and with First Shot Rio, you are going to have to be reloading after every single shot. So this is definitely the part where the triple crit damage build shines. So obviously I have reload on this, and that's it. Reload triple crit damage with first shot. If you reload after every single burst, I was taking down smashers in between 2 and 3 bursts, and these are 140 smashers. If you guys know my channel, you know that I don't show stuff in the lower zones unless I kind of have to, or it's relevant to that weapon. If I'm showing you guys a 130 Bundlebuss and I'm a 131, we're going to be in a 140 zone, so you can see that this is hitting like the hardest non-boosted enemies, meaning if you're in a 144 player and the mission's begun, yeah, these smashers will be like 163. If you're in an event, obviously they'll be higher, but in a normal mission like a 140 zone, this thing absolutely shreds. And with First Shot Rio, that is a super fun way to play. Now, going back to the roots here, like I mentioned from the very beginning, this isn't my favorite weapon. I don't use it regularly. In fact, I had to make that weapon gold just to show you guys, but I know that a lot of people are talking about the Bundlebuss, and because I already talked about the best perks, I figured it'd be a good conversation to talk about some of the best ways you could use the Bundlebuss to make it as effective as possible. This was a comment on a video, so I appreciate you giving me a heads up on this idea. I wasn't going to make this video otherwise, but I thought I'd have a little bit of fun with it. Have some fun. You know, it's a game. You're supposed to enjoy it, and with the Bundlebuss back in the game, it's a great time to take it for a spin and see what you can do. If you guys want to support the channel, I'd appreciate you guys using my code in the item shop. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave me some suggestions or comments below. Let me know what you think, what I should talk about next. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. So in light of the Easter egg launcher returning back to the game later this evening, link to that in the description below upon release, I wanted to talk about a fun loadout that I have had in my back pocket for a long time. Now I'm going to give a shout out here to Tic Tac, because I saw this on his stream for the very first time. I kind of forgot that Star Spangled Headhunter was a thing, and I never really saw the potential of this until I saw him screwing around with it on stream, and I wanted to make a video on it, seeing as it's been a few months, and well, with the Easter egg launcher coming back, you'll see why this is a perfect fit. So to show you how this thing actually works, let's show some gameplay. Simply put, when you pop a war cry, you will be able to fire shots without actually consuming ammo, which might be a little confusing, because the way that Star Spangled Headhunter is actually explained is war cry grants a 50% chance for each shot to not consume ammo, which effectively means you fire off the shot without consuming ammo. So if you're using an RPG, you can see the Santa's little helper here absolutely destroyed an encampment because I didn't even have to reload after every shot, because my weapon just didn't consume any ammo, and that results in a much larger magazine. So to bring it back to the Easter egg launcher, you can see that I am firing way past the 6 ammo mag size that this thing comes with, and those 3 ways were very important. So let's talk about the build here and see exactly what's going on. Now, first off, that 50% chance chance not to consume ammo is already a big deal. And I can show here that 50% chance to save ammo isn't actually 50%. It works out to be a lot better than that. So I'm going to talk about this in terms that I've already explained before. So I'm going to clear my calculator. That might mess me up in a second here. But Stars and Stripes Jonesy is something I use on almost all of my SMG loadouts and AR loadouts. I really, really like him because he, in the support, is a 24% chance. So in the lead, it'll be a 48% chance. But in that 24% chance support bonus, you actually get about 31 extra magazine size. And I'll show exactly how that works with my calculator here. So I'm sorry for those of you who don't like math, but it's actually pretty interesting on this. So I like to use 100 for a couple of reasons. One, it's the base mag size of LMGs, so it gives you a nice real world example. So you say if we're using a hacksaw and we give it, times 1.24, we get, 24 extra bullets. But that's not actually what's working here, because the ammo that you don't shoot out of your magazine actually gets consumed. So the easy formula for this is to just divide your total by the amount of shots you don't shoot. So because you're saving 24% of your shots, you're only actually consuming 76% of your bullets. So if you just hit enter, you can see that this is effectively your multiplier. And this is why I like using 100, because if you just move the decimal and divide it back by that 100, this is your multiplier. You get a 31.5789, etc. percent ammo bonus, which I round to 31%, but you can see the real number right there. And what's happening here is a nice combo deal. So I can do the exact same math with this. It's pretty simple, seeing as you're dividing by 0.5 because you're not shooting half of your shots, which means you are quite literally exactly doubling your mag size. That's straight up. So if you have an Easter egg launcher with 6 shots in the magazine and you're using a reload perk, I'll talk about why we're using reload in that video later today, you will have 12 shots effectively in your mag size instead of the normal 6. Now this is a percent chance, so sometimes you'll get 10 shots, sometimes you'll get 14 shots. It's not an exact science. It's kind of a variability. You do have to get a little bit lucky, but essentially you will not be consuming ammo, which is really, really great because rockets are already so expensive, but it gets better. Now I'm not going to hover over them exactly because I want to keep my calculator up here, but that 8-bit demo Enduring Machine gives you a 20% chance to not consume ammo, and that stacks beautifully. You might think 20% isn't that big of a deal, but I promise you it is, because if we divide 100 by the now 0.3 shots that we're actually using, because now we have, with her Warcry and him, a 70% chance to not consume ammo, we are getting a, well, let me just move the decimal for us again here. We are getting a 3.3 repeating percent multiplier, which I'm sorry if numbers are boring for you guys, but that is, if we just multiply it by the 6 in our Easter egg launcher, effectively a 20 mag size. And the reason I enunciated that 3 times earlier was because we are getting more than triple our mag size. So we get 20 shots instead of 6, which isn't even that insane when you consider that there are better options out here. I have footage with the Cannonade here where it is absolutely shredding things. It has a base 8 mag size, and now you can just take that math and pretty easily just take 8 times, your 3.33333, and you can click as many as you want. You get about a 26.6 repeating, which seeing as you're firing an actual physical shot and you can't shoot 0.6 of a bullet, you have to round to the nearest integer. So we're effectively getting 27 shots in our magazine, which is absurd for a Cannonade, which is not only buffed in the recent 12.0 update and a very powerful weapon, something I'll talk about when it re-releases later on in the Wild West llamas, but it is also a fully auto high-powered rocket launcher. So this thing absolutely annihilates, and it is my personal favorite weapon to use with this loadout. However, as I showed earlier with that Santa's Little Helper, absolutely any rocket launcher will work with this, provided that it uses normal ammo. So for weapons that don't have a magazine, like the Storm King's Wrath and the Deatomizer, it's just not going to work. I regret not recording any footage for this, but trust me, they won't work. They don't have a proper magazine size. They consume ammo from the full capacity, so you're not gonna, it doesn't have any heat reduction in this, so it doesn't work that way. If they change that in the future, then have fun, go crazy shooting your Storm King's Wrath without overheating as quickly, but yeah, this is only gonna work with weapons or rockets that actually use rocket ammo. So that's enough of the math. You have the formula. Just to run it by you guys one more time, take 100 for the easiest number and then just divide whatever you're not using. So for Star Spangled Headhunter, when you don't have her Warcry active, you can take Enduring Machine. So you are using, 80% of your shots because he saves you 20%, and you get effectively a 25% extra mag size. So even when her Warcry isn't active, you're still saving ammo, and 25% of like 6, for example, you're still getting like 8 shots, or, maybe 7. It's not a huge bonus, but it is there, and it's nice to have. So talking about the rest of this loadout, I have a couple of suggestions right off the bat. Happy Holidays is almost required because you need that war cry as often as possible, and that should be activated by default assuming your heroes are leveled up enough. So Enduring Machine is again a must if you're trying to use this build to its absolute maximum. You want Enduring Machines and faster explosions. I mean, we're buffing the mag size of rocket launchers here. If you're not using faster explosions, then what are you doing? Practice in combat is, again, a preference thing. So these are the two options where you can pretty much do whatever you want. I think the Warcry cooldown and duration are just hand in hand great to have because, again, Warcry is where you're getting a lot of your ammo saving here, and I don't think rockets really need that much of a damage buff. However, one of the things I was considering earlier was the Thick Skeleton Lady who gives you a 15% damage buff after reloads, but the whole point of this build is to not have to reload, so I wasn't really certain that I'd be getting the most out of her. You have a ton of options. You guys can, of course, do whatever you want. Just looking at it, Battle Beat would be nice. You could use Survivalist, whatever you want, guys. Explosive rounds could be good, you know, get some extra explosion damage. Again, I don't think you're going to need it. I just wanted to buff Warcry here, and you know I love going coconuts just always. I mean, it gives you healing and a 16% damage buff, which is just a win-win, and if you're going to be using a rocket launcher as your primary, again, I'm really hyping up rocket launchers here, but you are not going to need a secondary. I can promise you that as long as you can afford the ammo, you're going to be just fine. So a couple of alternate ways to play is putting 8-bit demo in your lead. Unfortunately, you will forego having Star Spangled Headhunter in your build because she only buffs Warcry and he doesn't have a Warcry. He does have a 40% chance in the lead, which might be a bit more consistent, and you can see our little formula here. If I just divide, I haven't actually done this math. I don't know what he saves you. It's there you go. You get that much of a bigger mag size, which isn't, you know, a ton, but 1.6 multiplier is nice. If you're running with, you know, that cannonade from earlier, you'll get 13 shots, which is nice. It's literally half of what you would get if she was in the lead, but if you don't want to be relying on a Warcry and you want to have a little bit of a different build, 8-bit demo is certainly a way you could go. Or maybe you just don't have Star Spangled Headhunter and you still want to have fun with this loadout. He is, of course, an option. So there you go. That's an awesome, awesome build. This thing is... Honestly, I'm surprised nobody's made a video on it because if you are strictly trying to speedrun encampments, I genuinely cannot think of a faster way to do it, or at least something that's as consistent. As long as that Warcry is up for each encampment, and it especially is if you're running this with a team, you will absolutely just shred everything. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you again to Tic Tac for, you know, showing this off in the stream. I don't even think I commented on it. I do want to give him credit because he inadvertently completely showed me this loadout and gave me a reason to pull Star Spangled Headhunter out of the book. I had her in the collection book, so 20 V-Bucks later I was able to get this hero out of there and make some use out of her. Of course, I didn't mention in this video yet that she does buff all weapons, so you don't need to use this for rocket launchers. If you want to use this with like a 4 mag size Mercury LMG and just shoot forever, you can do that. I do have a video on that in the description below where I did shoot the Mercury LMG with the male version in the lead, so that's a 48% ammo regeneration, and even though her Warcry would have saved me 2%, working out to much more as I showed, it wouldn't have been active for the entire time because with him in the lead, I was able to shoot this weapon for over 2 minutes straight, which is an absurd amount of time to be shooting a Mercury LMG. I'll link that below. You can check it out. I'll link just the video and its explanation. It's kind of a fun series if you're interested in this kind of thing. And if you do have her in the book, feel free to use code Mista when you pull her out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. And then